The Mike Hosking Breakfast, 6 to 9 weekdays on Newstalk ZB.
So he's back. Donald Trump is back in the White House. And behind the pomp and ceremony are lessons for politicians on the left around the world, but also here in New Zealand. Labelling your opponent a racist, a Nazi, an extremist, a homophobe, a sexist, anti-trans, a threat to democracy, a tyrant, remember that, a sexist, well, it won't win you an election. Biden and then Harris threw the kitchen sink of threats about Trump at the public, and none of it stuck. The Obamas, the Pelosi's, the Clintons of American politics did their best to paint Trump as a dystopian dictator, hell-bent on crucifying immigrants and minorities. And what happened? They lost. He won. A clean sweep of the battlegrounds. The House, the Senate, the Electoral College, the popular vote, you name it. Around half of Latino voters, the highest ever for a Republican candidate, went for Trump. Record numbers of minorities, in fact, went for him. His election was, of course, run against a backdrop of tough economic times. Inflation was hitting punters hard, plus Joe Biden was literally stumbling towards the finish line, struggling to walk and talk by the end. The fact remains that voters picked the guy who'd been labelled all of those nasty things because they trusted him on the economy. So what is the lesson here? For Chippy, it doesn't matter how many times you call Seymour and/or Luxon a racist, it won't necessarily get you back to the Treasury benches where you want to be. Labor and its allies are gearing up for a fresh onslaught of attacks on race as the treaty bill goes through Select Committee. But here's the thing. Most Kiwis aren't listening to those messages. Look at the polls. That Ipsos one from the end of last year. Inflation, the number one issue. Health, number two. Economy, number three. Crime, housing, poverty, race relations, 15th. Those on the left would do better, and we would all benefit from this actually, if they would stop the name calling and start coming up with some serious, credible, alternative economic plans to get this country firing again. Labor was supposed to be the party for the workers, and they have let provincial New Zealand down. Their energy policies may have suited a speech at Unga in New York, but certainly not the good people of Ruapehu, as they're finding out right now. And that is the lesson for Trump. That's the lesson he's giving the world today. The recipe used over the past decade of performative politics, identity politics, demonising your opponents, it no longer works on the very people who matter most, voters.
The Mike Hosking Breakfast, 6 to 9 weekdays on Newstalk ZB.